Welcome to 15K Plus Random Movie Reviews, where we take random movies from Metacritic's 15K Plus movies to randomly watch, whether we like it or not. Hello and welcome to episode 13 of 15K Plus Random Movie Reviews. This is Colin.
And this is Niall.
And this is random movie number 4617 on Metacritic's all-time movie list. It's called A Man Called Ove. It's got a Metascore of 70, a user score of 7.4. It was released in 2016. It's got a running time of 116 minutes. It has a estimated budget of 4 million and it roped in the box office 29.4 million, which is nice for a Swedish movie, I'm guessing. Mm-hmm. People in the background, not a lot of pedigree to them. Hannes Holm is the director/writer, and it's based on a book by Fredrik Backman, who also adapted it to be the screenplay as well with Mr. Holm. Awards, it got a Guldbagge, which is...
I love an El Guldbagge.
It's Swedish for gold bag. Best actor for Rolf Lassgård, who played the old Ove. Makeup and hair, strangely enough, got an award, and they also got a Cinema Audience Award, which I guess is the people's popular vote. You may know that this movie has been adapted to Hollywood, and they changed it to A Man Called Ove, and Sony bought the distribution rights for $60 million. So a very successful Swedish movie. Any background things you found out?
Not a whole heap, but I do know that Hans Holm also got writer credits on the movie A Man Called Ove.
Right, yeah.
Which is nice for him.
Yeah, I think both him and Backman are listed as adapted from the screenplay by Holm and Backman. So I'm guessing they got a little bit of a kickback from that, and I think vaguely remember that it might have brought in like $160 million in the Hollywood box office, so
pretty successful. Very successful.
So they haven't really done anything else really. They've done a lot of Swedish stuff, but nothing that has come across the pond.
Yeah. And that's what I found, at IMDb and all those places. That's all you could see, but I can't really say much about them because I haven't watched any of their. I don't watch a lot of Scandi TV shows, to be honest.
No. It's there's a couple of I think there's a couple of crime TV shows on Netflix that were quite successful from Sweden.
The Bridge. Actually, one of the actors in this was in The Bridge. I can't remember which. Yeah, I think it might have been the wife character. Was it her?
Sonia. Played by Ida Engvall.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I clicked on it and went, "Oh, that's interesting," and then Julie didn't note it down like an idiot.
Yeah, I went through most of their stuff. I didn't see The Bridge because I knew of that. But what's the give me the plot in a couple of sentences.
Well, this is how I'd break it down. If you want it in a paragraph,
yes,
I would sum it up as: you take the first 10 minutes of the movie up, okay, and then you give it a large dollop of the TV show Afterlife by Ricky Gervais, and then you garnish it with a little sprig of One Foot in the Grave. And that kind of sums up the ingredients or the recipe for this kind of thing. It's it's about Ove, an old man. Starts off, he's it sets the scene very early on. He's off buying some flowers. He's got a coupon and he goes up and he tries to buy one bouquet of flowers, but the coupon is for 2 bouquet of flowers for a certain price, and he's like, "Why don't you just give me half price?" And the girl in checkout's like, no, it's 2 bouquet of flowers. He freaks out, asks for a manager, complains about people going for lunch. Grumpy old man tastic, brilliant. Then walks off and goes to the wife's grave and puts the flowers there. And it kind of sets what this movie is. He's a man with nothing left. The wife is gone. He's got nothing to live for, really. And he's just grumpy. It's great. Yeah, he's like a neighborhood watch type guy. He patrols the neighborhood every morning at 8 o'clock. He gives out to people for parking incorrectly, picks up litter, he cleans things up, he puts up signs that say don't do X, Y, and Z. And he's very regimented. He likes things just so. And he's not really scared to tell you if things are not that way. That's kind of the initial first few minutes of it.
That sets the scene for the movie. That's him in a nutshell. I also did get a little kind of sprinkling of, if you want to add to your recipe, a little bit of a sprinkle of Curb Your Enthusiasm, because because it's the flower shop scene is very much
so, yeah.
Just bloody just give it to him, for God's sake, just give him the bloody money. So I was with him on that, and obviously as fellow curmudgeons, there's plenty of times during this movie I'm going. Yeah. I'm like, yeah, I'm with you, man. I'm with you, Ove. I know how it is. So like for every, as every movie we're doing now, I try to break it into thirds, and what would you say is the major hits and major scenes of the first third, without going through every single one of them?
Yeah, so obviously the flower scene, important. That kind of sets it. Then getting fired after 43 years of service from the train yard is one of the last kick in the stones.
Gently pushed, I put down.
Yeah, gently pushed. But he didn't go gently. He basically done the F off. So, not so nice ways of putting it, but he walks off with a spade, which is kind of, thanks very much for 43 years. Here's a shovel.
He didn't take it, though. It wasn't in the next scene.
No, he probably just threw it back at them or killed them with it. I'm not sure. Anyway, he goes home, and then he's running around being grumpy, and a new set of neighbours are moving in. This is important. So it's a family of 2 kids. There's a man and a woman. The woman being a Persian or a girl from Iran, which comes into it a little bit later on. That's fine. He's like, okay, that's great. So he doesn't particularly care. They're kind of annoying to him. He walks past them, goes into his house and gets his nylon rope and attaches it to a hook in the ceiling.
Yeah, it's very much dark straight away. It reminded me of Bedazzled.
Yeah. So it doesn't wait around. And you know what? And I like it for that.
Yeah.
There's no faff. The preamble is setting the scene, and it does well very quickly, and then gets into the main content. He wants to die. His life has no meaning anymore. So that's the very important scene, the noose.
Yeah.
I think
he's interrupted by them moving in the first attempt, the first road scene.
The reversing of the trailer. He's looking at the window, reversing the trailer, and he's like, what is wrong with these idiots?
Yeah.
He loves that word, which I love as well.
Idiota.
So he's like, he takes the noose off it. Oh God, these guys wrecking my head when I'm trying to kill myself. So he goes out, shouts at them for being idiots. Well, how come you can't drive? He kicks the guy out of the car, and reverses the trailer in. And they go, that's how you reverse a trailer, you idiots. Idiota. Fantastic. Loved it. And I think that's kind of would I say that's the first third of it? There are multiple scenes where he tries to top himself, but that's...
Yeah. Well, I like, just to talk about that first suicide scene, it very much reminded me of Shawshank Brooks' suicide scene.
Get busy living and get busy dying.
Well, they actually...
They kind of quote it later on in the movie as well.
Quote that. Yeah, they quote that later. We either live or die. Who said that?
That was the missus. After some bad things happen.
Yeah, but it very much reminded me of, especially in the second hanging attempt.
Was there only 2 hanging attempts, or was it 3?
No, three hanging attempts. The second time he did it, the doorbell went.
Oh yes,
and the third attempt, it went to the first flashback of him and his dad, and so this is nearing the first third, end of the first third. It gives us a major backstory on the dad and what it was like growing up growing up with a single dad after his mum died quite young. And he said, but for the most part, he said nothing at all. That was one of his quotes he said about his dad.
And there's a major parallel between Ove and his dad. Like he basically is a reincarnation of his dad. He's got the same sort of emotional range. You know, he doesn't project a lot of emotion that he's feeling. He just stores it all in and gets angry.
Yeah, and also in this big flashback, it sets the scene for the love of the Saab, the Swedish motor.
Yes, which becomes very important later on as well, with his friend Rune.
Yes, Rune. Yeah. So that's when his dad gets hit by the train, right? In that section, in that first flashback. A later flashback.
Hang on. I think it was it was that one. It was that one.
Yeah, it must be that one. Yeah.
Because that's when his dad gets the grades that he's got, and he's very impressed. He's like, "Oh, it's all A's and B's." You know, I'm so proud of my son. He's around showing it to everybody in the train yard.
Yes,
which is also important.
Scene. Shocking scene.
But what's important there is more parallels with the dad, because his dad was doing the exact same job as him.
Yeah. But when his dad walked away and then the train just came out of nowhere, I was like, what the? I actually said it out loud. I said, what?
Yeah. Because you don't see it.
No.
You don't see it coming. It just bang. And, you know, and what was nice about this scene up the top, he was actually showing emotion to his son. He's like, I'm so proud of you. And he's like, running around showing everybody the grades. And it just slaps you in the face.
Yeah, and then it slaps you in the face with that, and then it slaps you in the face when it cuts back to present time and the rope breaks. The rope snaps.
What I love there is the next scene is like he's back in the hardware store and going, "What the hell is up with this?" It says on the package, "Universal usage," and the girl says, "So what did you use it for?" And he's like, just walks off. Idiota. Beautiful.
And then he has after that scene, I think it's the quote of the movie. He goes back to to his little community where he rules the roost, but unofficially because he's not the chairman anymore.
Yeah.
The chairman dude his wife has a dog, and he's going nuts. Then he's very angry. Then he talks about the guy. He drives an Audi. He says 4 zeros on the grill and 1 behind the wheel.
Oh yeah, that's a wonderful statement.
Oh, very good. I'd never heard of that before.
Yeah, that was good.
So after that, he tries the old exhaust hose pipe thing into his car. That's the next suicide attempt.
Yeah, and then that spawns the next flashback as well.
Yeah. I kind of liked as well. It set the scene. Always on My Mind was played. It wasn't sung by Elvis Presley though. I don't know who it was singing it on the car radio.
I couldn't find that out either. It's an earlier version of it. I assume.
Maybe it's a Swedish guy covering it. I'm not sure. But that flashback, it incorporates his watch that he got from his dad, and then the fires that happen in his old homes, and basically leads to him running away, and he wakes up to his wife. He jumps onto a train and he falls asleep, and he wakes up to his wife his future wife across from him.
He doesn't wake up married.
No. Well, it's happened before. The people.
Yeah.
But it's quite a poignant moment because it's repeated then at the end, which is very kind of emotional at the end of the movie. But yeah, we were introduced to Sonia, played by Ida Engvall, and quite nicely portrayed as well.
It's a lovely relationship the two of them have, because they're very different characters. And he's completely reserved, completely shut down, doesn't let anybody in, and she's very bubbly, and she doesn't really hide any emotion. So there's quite a difference between them. Both very strong characters, though. Yeah,
I wrote down opposites attract, and she loves her books. He loves his Saab.
But what I liked, she asks him to ask her to go for a meal, to invite me for dinner.
Oh yeah.
So he does. But what I liked about the conversation is that they're just sitting there awkwardly, not saying anything to each other until he starts talking about cars. But there's an instant this is going to work when she says, "Oh yes, my dad's in the cars," and she starts talking about the innards of a Saab, and he's like, "Ah, I've met the right woman."
That was good. And I also like the fact that he had already eaten before dinner. I was like, what the?
I can't afford to pay for my own food.
Yeah, he was like, oh, "Well, I want you to eat. I want you to have the best dinner," and that was sweet as well.
Yeah, it was a nice. It was very. He lied to her on the train and said he was in the army or something like that. He was a recruit or some such thing. But he comes clean and says, "Yeah, I've no money. I have no house. And I can't afford to pay for anything."
Yeah, and so that flashback ends with him trying to find. He finds her, and the flashback pretty much ends there. Just that little backstory of meeting the wife. I think he gets back into reality then with Parvanya, the Iranian lady next door, knocking on the garage door. Yeah, the ladder incident. His bloody stupid husband had fallen off the ladder. So then you kind of see a thawing of Ove, because he has to drive her to the hospital and he has to mind the kids, and he's getting into, he's actually getting into enjoying reading a storybook to them and putting on the bearer's voice, and you can see there's something there, Then this clue comes along.
Absolute clue. It doesn't end well for the clown.
No, and I actually liked the way that was produced. I was going to mention it later, but I like the fact that we skip ahead to the cops questioning and he says something, then it cuts back to what happened with the clown. So that was good.
Yeah, and there's a lot of that, like that. It's not linear, which is fantastic. There's a lot of jumping forward and back, and I think it's done. It's almost telling two stories at the same time, like outside of the clown thing or the clown thing. You've got old Ove and young Ove, and both stories kind of run like in parallel through the whole movie. And I love how it's produced, and as the stories are revealed, they add flavor to each other. Both stories. So production in that fantastic.
Yeah. Just then some random things happen. He saves the guy when he jumps off the train track. The guy falls, and then he's like going, I wonder, should I use this to end myself there too? That's kind of a quasi-suicide attempt there.
I think he was going to do himself in on the train track.
Yeah.
And then the other guy passed out on the side of the train track, and he goes, Christ, I have to go save this idiot.
Yeah, nobody's doing anything. This woman on a phone recording it. So the entire society is wrong and he's right, basically. I'm with Ove again.
And there was more parallels. Like we just to reverse back to young Ove, when his house is burning down, or before his house burns down, his neighbor's house burns down, and he runs out and goes, "A house on fire! Is anybody in there?" And all the neighbors just looking around, going, "Oh, I don't know."
Yeah.
And then he just kicks the door and then goes in and saves an old man and a child.
Ove is in the right the entire movie.
Ove is, he's badass in my opinion. He's very quiet, but he's a good man and a badass with it. Like, he's not scared of anything other than talking to people.
Yeah, but I still never really found out at the end. Was he grumpy before his wife got ill? He wasn't. It never showed in the flashbacks that he was crazy grumpy and a stickler for the rules.
I think he wasn't. I think he was always a stickler for the rules, if I remember this correctly. But he wasn't grumpy with it. He just didn't like bending rules. When he lost a wife, he's definitely grumpy. Maybe it comes with age.
Well, you know that.
Oh, I know all too well.
But it seems like only 6 months has passed since she has died. So in the 6 months, has he just gone hell for leather? All right, I'm going on top of everybody. I'm making sure everybody's, because he's got nothing else to do anymore,
Yeah, well, but as he says, and maybe later on in the movie, is that when she's gone, she's just waiting for him. So the 6 months that in between her death and the movie, he's planning on doing himself in. There's no question. There's no decision to be made. He's going to do it. I think he finds it difficult to actually get it done.
Yeah. People keep on bloody interrupting him.
Yeah.
Stupid society.
Idiots.
A couple of things come together to sort of he's gradually accepting love and caring and friendship back into his life with, minding the kids and also the stray neighborhood cat. Cat comes in and sort of just becomes part of his life, and you see the cat sleeping on the pillow, when he wakes up one morning, he's just stroking its head, and it's just very poignant, it's very sad, but also quite nice, and maybe getting back into the whole, well, life goes on and other people need to be loved as well,
Yeah, I think at this point, I think roughly around then, the I haven't written her name then, like an Aegis, the lady, the neighbor, the pregnant
Parvati.
wife, Parvati,
Yeah.
she begs him to be to teach her to drive.
Yeah.
Which leads to a scene that I absolutely love, where she's trying to move the car and she keeps failing and stalling the car, and there's a guy behind honking the horn, and then she tries again and she reverses into the guy and he's honking like crazy, and Ove, being the sensible, quiet man that he isn't, runs out of the car, freaking out, drags the guy out of the car, because the man had called, what was it he called him? Oh yes, he called him old man, and Ove's like, no, I'm not your old man, asshole. I'm angry man. Which I just love.
Yeah.
And the guy's petrified.
Yeah.
Even though he's like 40 years younger. Absolutely great.
I liked his pep talk then when he went back into the car. He's like
Yeah.
going, listen, you've done whatever. You've reared 2 kids. You've lived your life in Iran. You've come here. You've learned a new language. Learning to drive isn't going to be
married
an
a
issue.
loser
Get
husband.
going. Yeah.
Well, it was a great pep talk. It really was. And it works.
It was a lovely pep talk. Yeah, lovely pep talk. Then on the way back from there, I think it was this is around the 80-minute mark-ish. Like you're getting into the last third of the movie. He laughs out loud for the first time. If you remember the scene when he's walking back, he gives her a little bit of guff, a little bit of a backhanded compliment, and it's funny, and they have some laughs.
It's all good until she mentions Sonia again, though, and he gets extremely defensive. I think after that they go off to the cafe, which I actually, as the scene goes, is kind of, it's a lovely scene between the two characters.
Yeah,
he's kind of explaining some of his life with Sonia to her, and I think there's a flashback at this point as well to explain his relationship with Rune, and how they're very similar characters, but there's a problem.
It goes back to the Saab.
Yeah, see the problem is he loves Saabs and amazing cars, but this jerk Rune, he's a Volvo driver, and that's and what's worse, it gets worse.
Yeah,
it turns out he buys a bloody W, doesn't he?
Yeah, just
that was the final. Yeah, just as they're getting back as friends, and he comes out with a BMW and he just walks off. No, that's too far.
And it's just, I don't know, like, and I look past that, and that's a stupid argument, but in life, those stupid arguments happen. It's just,
especially with a man with who cannot compromise.
No,
it makes sense to me, and I love it for that.
Yeah, it's and then obviously Rune is next door, and he's in a wheelchair. He's sort of like, I guess, some form of ALS, I would guess, or
perhaps a really bad stroke. It never goes into it.
No,
and he kind of led to believe that Rune is not there. But there's a couple of scenes. They're very important scenes, specifically the one with the hose pipe. He goes when he's trying to gas him or kill himself from fumes in the car. He goes in to borrow a hose pipe or get his hose pipe back from Rune's wife. And he tells all this to Rune, thinking that Rune is not there anymore. And as he's picked up the hose pipe, he goes to walk out. Rune grabs the hose pipe because he knows what's about to happen.
Yeah.
Which is kind of, it's an important scene. And there's a nice scene later on.
It is.
But
it's a nice scene.
The end.
Near the end. Actually, to tie in with Rune, after this whole driving lesson scene, this evil health guy from a private health organization. He
No,
comes back and
the white shirt.
he's like the arch enemy of Ove, and he's basically taking Rune to private healthcare to earn lots of money. And so there's a whole backstory where Rune and his wife has, protested the move, and he's taken him away. And so he comes and he really rattles Ove at that point. This isn't the end scene, but this is leading up to sort of the culmination of the actual arc of everybody. But after he meets with that evil health guy outside in the road, there's a bit of a flashback about dancing, and then she tells him that she's going to be a father, and he immediately goes and makes a wooden cradle, and it's a very, very
Is it then when we get the holiday scene as well?
No, not yet.
Later. Sorry, yeah.
We get that flashback, and then he's grabbed the old gun. That's his next weapon of choice.
And I love that. I love that scene where he's done a bit of a Dexter on his living room, where he's stapled a bunch of plastic sheets up against the wall because he cares about his walls after he's dead. Apparently, anyway.
Yeah.
You want to make a mess. You better be considerate of the people who have to look after you afterwards.
Yeah, exactly.
So you get this massive shotgun, a huge double-barrel shotgun, and he's basically chewing on it and about to pull the trigger when there's a knock on the door. Now, there's two guys we haven't talked about earlier, but
yeah, they're not really that important. I think
they're not really that important.
No,
yeah.
I think it's a weird little segue into the story as well. Like, he's met these guys before, and he's found out that this guy Mersad, he's gay, and yeah, it's a weird thing where they come to his door and say, "Oh, can Mersad stay with you? He just came out to his dad and he hates him." So it's like, and then he says it. He says, "Sonia always wanted to help people out." So
yeah, and he was about to walk away and go, "Yeah, feck off! I'm topping myself. I don't have time for this." But then he hears that and he's like, "Okay, yeah."
Yeah,
and again, this is another useful thing for him. Like he's got human contact, and he's having conversation. And then the next morning, the guy's up making breakfast, and he makes him a coffee, and he goes on his daily rounds with him.
Yeah, and he picks up the other guy too,
with the other guy and the cat, which I thought was a great little. The three of them walking behind. Yeah. It was a great scene.
It was good that I felt that when Mersad came, he changed his routine a little bit. He had his coffee. He had a coffee that Mersad made first, and then he went out on his rounds. So it's you could see he was changing up. Yeah. And so straight after that, you're coming into what he says in Swedish, Krieg. He goes on full out Krieg for Rune because they're coming for him, and he goes to the wife and goes, "Give me all your paperwork for all of the stuff, and we'll get them." And so he sits down with Parvane, and it's a little bit tense, and it gets to the point where he feels he needs to. Parvane's going, "Listen, I don't want you. I don't need this pressure in my life. Like, get out of here." He just sits down, and this is your bus scene.
Yeah,
flashback.
This is the first flashback, I think, where he's not trying to top himself. Or maybe possibly the second one. I think there might have been one during the cafe. But yeah, he explains to Parvane how he doesn't have children, even though he wanted children with Sonia. And it's heartbreaking, really. He talks about Sonia wanted to go on holidays. She decided to go on a bus holiday because it'd be more romantic, but really it's about the money because they don't have any. They go, I think it's a Spanish holiday, sun holiday somewhere. It's all lovely. They have a great time. Then on the way back, she asked him to push his hand on her belly and is kicking, and everybody's smiling. He almost cracks a smile at this point, so he goes off to the bathroom to wipe away a tear of happiness so nobody sees it. And then everything goes upside down multiple times, over and over again.
It's a great scene.
It's a great scene. It's what the opposite of changing lanes and a certain Egypt in a car. It's how you do production with very little budget. It's just so good, and it's horrible and very well done. But anyway, he wakes up as a bus tire goes past his head down the
Which is
bottom of
another
the
good
hill,
scene, yeah.
isn't it? And he starts climbing up the hill to the ruin of the bus. Starts screaming and shouting and digging to get Sonia out. Cuts to the hospital after that. She's in a coma. The doctors say she's not going to wake up. He doesn't take it very nicely.
Yeah.
But he sits with her, and eventually she does wake up. But then
Yeah.
he says the hardest part of his life ever was that first 5 minutes when she wakes up, and he has to tell her that you've lost the girl, the child, and your legs don't work anymore.
Yeah. And then it goes into the whole, her battle and his rage against the machine and her battle to get to be a teacher and how successful she was. And he built a ramp to the school so she could actually get the job there. It's very nice, but it's kind of crammed into the last third. I thought maybe spreading it out a bit more could have been a bit better, or telling this part of the story a little earlier, perhaps, to sort of focus a bit more on that time together. Because I think that could be a bit more rich for the storytelling, that whole stressful time, you know?
Absolutely. The downside of that is the movie would have been a lot longer, or maybe that would have been a good thing.
Yeah, it's pretty short, but I think they could have shuffled some things around, perhaps. I think
maybe.
The important thing is to do the backstory of his dad and do the backstory of him meeting his wife. Maybe the fire thing could have been cut out. So, you could do that in another way. But
I do agree that it needed a bit more flesh in, because it's a very important part of it. And it's in this scene that we see a kind of a mimic of what you were talking about with the Shawshank Redemption and the "get busy living and get busy dying" quote that they sort of copy here, which is either live or you die. This from Sonia, and very important because he seems to be flagging here for the first time. He's losing the will to go on at this point, but she kind of kicks him up the backside with that line, and he continues to fight.
Yeah. And, I think it's very tactfully done and quite poignant as well. He pretty much just says at the end of his story, she died 6 months ago of cancer. It's very, very quickly said, very just direct, and it's not drawn out. We don't see it happening as the viewer. So I think that's done quite well, actually, to be honest with you.
And it's good that it's not, we didn't have to dwell upon what would probably be a horrible time in his life, because while this is quite comedic as a movie, it's also quite sad in various parts of it. I don't think it needs any more depression to be added into this, considering the topic.
Yeah. So I think we need to wrap it up here. The last after that sort of revelation, they get their act together and the whole community comes together and everybody is batting for the same team. And the reporter that saw him save the guy on the train tracks comes out and faces off against the private health guy who is coming to collect Rune. And she says, yeah, your company is a scam company and you're just stealing money. And he goes off with his tail between his legs. And,
take that white shirt.
Yeah, the white shirt, take that white shirt. And then the last bit of the movie, maybe not even 10 minutes, probably even just 5 minutes, is Ove playing Happy Families with the kids. And, there's a very beautiful mirroring of him and his dad when he's with one of the girls next
driving
door.
The Saab. Yeah,
driving the Saab.
Beautiful.
He turns to her and says, "This is the life," and that's exactly what his dad said to him back when he was a boy. So that was a very nice sort of mirroring of his upbringing there. And at the end of the spoiler alert, at the end of the movie, he doesn't come out of his house one morning and he's passed away. Old Ove.
Yeah, he doesn't do his rounds in the morning, and the neighbors look out the window and go, "Oh dear."
Yeah,
because he never misses his rounds.
And again, another beautiful mirroring thing is there's a imagination of him waking up in the train carriage. He is his old self. He wakes up just like he did back when he met his wife, and he wakes up and she's there in the train carriage waiting for him. And that was beautiful. I thought actually it should have finned there, but then it's the community coming back from his funeral. And it's funny because the little girl turns back and fixes the gate.
Make sure the gate's closed, just like he would have done. Which is a nice little nod. He's not lovely. He's not gone. Kind of.
No, they're going to carry on his regiment and keep everybody in line. So a nice little story. It's not going to change the world. It's an average enough story, but it's told well. I think production outweighs the story. I gave the plot 2 out of 5. I think it's quite a nice story, but not record breaking. What did you think?
2.5 for myself. Again, as you said, it's middle of the road story. It's been done before. It's been done. It'll be done again. But yeah, how it's done is the important part in this one.
Yeah. All right. So like acting as well, I thought it was fine. Nothing too crazy. Rolf Lassgård, who plays old Ove, and Philip Berg, who plays young Ove, they're fine. They're not crazy good. I think Bahar Pars, who plays Parvane, was quite nice. She was there's nothing wrong with her performance, and Ida Engvall, who plays Sonia, was fine too, and all the rest of the cast did an okay job. There was nothing too crazy about it. Nobody's really done anything Hollywood-esque. Rolf Lassgård had a bit of a role in Downsizing, who stars Matt Damon, which is 2 movies in a row now we've mentioned Matt Damon, so hopefully that's not our theme.
There's only the second Tom Hanks time. We have had a bit of a connection between the last movie and this. True
that, yeah. So Matt Damon, Tom Hanks. Let's see what happens at our next movie. So I just gave it 2 out of 5 for acting. I thought it was fine, but nothing too over the top.
I was a bit more generous of this when I gave it 3.5. I thought
well done.
I thought Rolf was excellent, as was Philip Berg. I thought they were. I thought the emotion that the 2 lads portrayed without actually portraying emotion was quite subtle.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I see where you're coming from. I think it's quite nuanced, their performances, which maybe I mistook for just blah, but I'll stick with my voting.
Just grumpy.
Yeah. If I was Ove, I voted like if I was Ove.
Idiot.
So sound brackets, idiot. Sound brackets track, like, listen, there wasn't a lot to it. There's kind of a Curb Your Enthusiasm, little jingle jangle at the start, but a little bit more sentimentality in the music throughout. I felt in a few times the Shawshank Redemption music sort of felt as well. So like the hanging scene, the quote, and sometimes the music sounded very Shawshanky as well. But having said that, I gave it 1.75 out of 5. It didn't really drive. It didn't add anything really, I felt, to the story.
Yeah, I give it 2, roughly the same. And yeah, as you said, it doesn't add anything to the story, but it certainly doesn't subtract from the story.
No. Yeah. So moving on to last but not least, production. I think production was very solid, very polished. I thought the bus crash was done very well. When you don't have the money for an actual bus crash, if you stick somebody into a box and flip them about, I think that would be good. I think that works well.
Sure, that's the last scene, because you don't know if they're going to survive.
Yeah. I thought, the dad getting run over by the train was done well as well.
Oh, brilliant, yeah.
Yeah. The way that the story was cut up with the flashbacks, the clown scene was a bit of a retroactive flashback as well within the normal reality.
Yeah.
I thought it was done well, and the Swedish sort of community as well gave a very Swedish vibe. Anything I missed?
Very, very, very IKEA, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, I gave production 3 out of 5 because I thought it was very good.
Again, tiny bit more generous. I give it 3.5 because again, it kind of drags everything else up in the movie. Like, I would go as far as to say, even though if you do an average of this, I think production drags the entire movie up a certain level and makes it a really good movie, a really enjoyable watch.
Yeah, so a couple of reviews here from the critics. From RogerEbert.com, Odie Henderson gave it 88 out of 100. All movies are manipulative by default. The effectiveness of that manipulation is the more valid measurement to inspect. On that scale, A Man Called Ove is morbidly funny and moving success. Glenn Kenny in the New York Times gave it 50 out of 100. He said, good-hearted stuff to be sure, but mainly of interest to lovers of cinematic comfort food. So, whatever.
Yeah,
okay,
that's
so
negative.
Yeah, well, he gave it 50 out of 50, kind of just middle of the road there from
Yeah.
the New York Times. Okay, so let's roll the dice here for our next episode, which will be episode 14. Here we go. Oh dear, we're way up at the top.
Oh, Jesus.
14948. It's going to be back to bad stuff here.
After such a nice movie. Oh, well.
14948. It's a movie called Gentlemen Broncos.
Jesus.
It's got 28 out of 100 Metascore. Here is the movie details. Benjamin, a homeschooled by his eccentric mother, is a lovable loner whose passion for writing leads him to an offbeat and hilarious journey as the story first gets ripped off by the legendary fantasy novelist Ronald Chevalier, and then is adapted into a disastrous movie by the small town's most prolific homespun filmmaker. Actually, it sounds pretty funny on paper, but I'm guessing...
Well, it says hilarious, so it must be.
Yeah, it's not going to be good, I'm guessing, but let's see what happens. We'll never know, but...
Yeah. All it
well,
has
to
to
be
do
honest
is
with you...
beat movie 43 to, you know...
Well, a little bit. It's got a 5.8 user score, so obviously human beings like it, apart from the critics, but we'll see what happens. Okay, so that will be in episode 14. So that's it for episode 13 of 15K plus random movie reviews. Please follow and like and share our podcast on every platform that you listen to us on. This is Colin. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.